Senator Graham, you've talked to the president a couple of times. Yesterday, he was saying no short-term deal unless there is a down payment on the wall. Right. There is no down payment for the wall. So what is his thinking?
The best way to get this thing to conclusion is open up the government. The bottom line is the TPS recipients who have been here for decades as a result of natural disasters, wars, they're going to begin to lose their legal status this year. You have DACA folks that are in sort of legal limbo. The president is willing to give 1.1 million people a better life if he can get a secure border. To my Democratic friends, you have voted in the past for wall funding greater than the president's requested. This is the first time in 12 years I've seen a deal where you secure your border and give a better life to the DACA TPS population. If the Democrats do not work with us, the biggest losers, in my view, are going to be the TPS DACA recipients, because this president will secure our border through executive action.
Based on your conversations with him, though, is he leaning toward, if there is no progress in 3 weeks, using his executive authority or just shutting it down again?
My belief is this needs to come to an end, that every commander-in-chief has an obligation to defend the country. How can you look at that border and believe it's not porous? You had a 9-month pregnant woman climb over the wall. A couple of days ago, you had 100 people come over the wall using a ladder. So I think the president is hell-bent on securing our border. He would love to do it through the legislative process. He's willing to give a better life to the TPS DACA recipients, put humanitarian assistance on the table. Here's what I think. Come February the 15th, if the Democrats still say, go to hell on the wall, you get $1, that's it, they basically tell Trump, I'm not going to do with you what I did with Bush and Obama, then I hope he will go the emergency route. We don't need to shut the government down. We need to secure the border. And to me, the last best chance to do this win-win is between now and February the 15th.
And based on the conversations you've had with your Democratic colleagues, is this, the end of the shutdown, the 3-week extension, is that going to push a comprehensive immigration deal? Is there going to be this huge bargain now the day after Valentine's Day?
To my Democratic colleagues, I've been working with you for a decade. You voted in 2013 for $42 billion to secure our border, 700 miles of fencing. You've done this in the past. This president is willing to give a better life to the DACA TPS population. The TPS recipients are going to lose their legal status, and this president's willing to work with them if he can get something in return, securing our border. As to shutting the government down again, that makes no sense to me. What I want to do is shut down the crime coming across the border. The real danger of this country is a broken border. To my Democratic colleagues, this is the best chance I've seen since 2006 to get a deal that is a win-win for all of us. Take advantage of it. If you don't, by February the 15th, this president has one choice left: to do it by himself through executive action. That's the last option, but it may be the only option if Democrats won't work with us. To Nancy Pelosi, all you've done is say no. Every time he's put an idea on the table, every time he's moved, you just tell him no. All I can say is to my Democratic senators who took the floor yesterday, 8 of you promised to work with this president to do more on wall security, border funding, barrier funding. If you can push your colleagues to where you're at, we'll get a deal good for the country.
Last one. If the government quickly reopens today, will there be a State of the Union address in the House chamber with the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, sitting behind President Trump on Tuesday night?
I hope so. The more we can get back to being normal, the more we can look like a country that has differences but still united in purpose, the better. It would be good for this country to have the president speak from the House chamber with the Speaker over his shoulder, showing that we have differences but we're also able to work together. To my Democratic colleagues, we've got 3 weeks to bring about a conclusion to a problem that's been going on for 13 years. To the president, thank you for giving us this opportunity. If you have to go it alone, it will be because you tried everything and nothing worked but going it alone. I'm somewhat optimistic that Democratic senators who spoke yesterday are going to make sure the TPS population does not go into the darkness, that these DACA recipients will have a better life, they can go to school, they can get in-state tuition legally, and all that, all you got to do is to give the president a few $1 billion more for a barrier you've previously voted for. That's all you got to do, is to give him the same thing you gave Obama and Bush, and we'll have a deal that will be good for the country. Please take advantage of this.
All right. Senator Lindsey Graham, you heard it here first before anywhere else. Dana, back to you.
Peter Doocy, thank you for that enterprising reporting, and thank you, Senator Graham, for being there with us live on the Daily Briefing.
The charges today relate in no way to Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other illegal act in connection with the 2016 campaign.
A 7-count indictment, I think it's a very serious one, but it shows that the special counsel's office is uncovering the evidence it needs.
This has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with the White House.
This connection to the integrity of our elections is obviously something we have to get the truth about.
Was there illegal collusion, illegal conspiracy with Russia? We don't find that.
Well, 7-count indictment for Roger Stone, and in that indictment, a number of different parts of it, but this says after the July 22nd, 2016 release of stolen DNC emails by Organization 1, that's WikiLeaks, a senior Trump campaign official was directed to contact Stone about any additional releases and whether other damaging information Organization 1 had regarding the Clinton campaign. Stone thereafter told the Trump campaign about potential future releases of damaging material by Organization 1, again, WikiLeaks. The counts that Stone now faces: 1 count of obstruction of an official proceeding, up to 5 years there, 5 counts of false statements, 5 years per count potentially, 1 count of witness tampering, and there's up to 20 years in prison for that, meaning he's facing a maximum of 50 years in prison. Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney, putting in a statement saying the indictment today is yet again nothing more than another false statement charge. It doesn't allege collusion. Indeed, it charges no underlying wrongdoing by Mr. Stone or anyone else. Seems like we are coming to an end. What about all this? Let's digest it with our panel. Bring them back. Byron York, chief political correspondent of Washington Examiner. Josh Kraushaar, the political editor for the National Journal. And Matthew Continetti, editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Okay, Matthew, what do you make of the Roger Stone indictment?
Well, what happened to Richard Nixon in Watergate is a tragedy, Brett, but Roger Stone seems to have read it as an instruction manual, if the indictment is correct. And nonetheless, the crime for which he was indicted are process crimes. They're not the crimes that Mueller was appointed to investigate. And so I think the administration is able to create some space between what happened to Roger Stone and the president himself.
Josh?
You know, it does feel like the walls are closing in when it comes to the Trump White House and possible connections with Russia and WikiLeaks. Stone is merely one of the many campaign officials on that Trump campaign to now be indicted, and it feels like the heat is on in the White House. On the other hand, from the political point of view, if you remember back in the summer of 2016, Trump was calling publicly on Russia to release the emails, and Stone was tweeting about this. It's for everyone who follows him on Twitter to see. So this was sort of baked in politically to the 2016 election, and I don't think the public, and certainly the politics of this, changes until Mueller releases his report, and actually there is some evidence of actual collusion, which there has not been proven to be so far. So the politics, I don't think, really change a whole lot, even though this is yet another damning connection from that Trump campaign to Russia.
What we don't know, Byron, is the senior Trump campaign official who is ordered to talk to Stone, and the White House and Rudy Giuliani saying it doesn't touch the president. Obviously, he was intimately involved in the campaign, so we don't know a lot from this indictment, even though it's 7 counts and laid out.
Well, that passage that you read and that you just referred to about July 22nd, 2016 is very important. One of the most important things being it's after the WikiLeaks is published. We find out that WikiLeaks has, or the Russians have hacked the DNC. WikiLeaks discloses its stuff, and after it happens, someone in the Trump campaign says to Stone, what's going on. So that suggests that there was no knowledge beforehand, and also I think that does not really support any idea that there was some sort of collusion scheme or conspiracy going on between the Trump campaign and Russia. But the main thing to remember reading this indictment is Roger Stone has always been kind of a BS artist. He brags about all sorts of dirty deeds, some of which he hasn't even done, and he was doing that in connection to this case in public, and then the House had him come for an interview and asked him about those statements under oath, and he allegedly lied about it all, and it is all kind of caught up with him. But as far as revealing some sort of scheme or conspiracy, just doesn't do it.
Take a listen very quickly to the question of whether Roger Stone would flip with a special counsel and somehow testify against the president.
There is no circumstance whatsoever under which I will bear false witness against the president.
When you're facing long prison term, the most loyal of people turn to themselves and say, I have to look out for myself first.
You get 10 years in jail, but if you say bad things about somebody, in other words, make up stories, it's called flipping, and it almost ought to be illegal.
So, Matthew, it doesn't sound like he's going to do that, but we'll hear on Tucker's show at 8 p.m. tonight.
No, it doesn't sound at all, but I would say the way in which the FBI apprehended Stone in that 6 a.m. raid involving so many agents with weapons for what are, as basically perjury or witness tampering in terms of a congressional investigation and a special counsel investigation, I think shows the special counsel trying to ratchet up the pressure, which will continue as this legal process moves on, Brett. And as you mentioned before, these charges can amount to some significant prison time, and I think that's something that Mueller is going to emphasize in his dealings with Stone.